Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we've got more Animation Chronicle reveals, kinda unexpected today, to be honest. I wasn't even going to make a video today, but even on a Saturday when we get a couple of cards dropped for Animation Chronicle, I'm pretty hyped about those. Looks like we've got the Allure Queen Link monster revealed and a couple other cards as well that may pair with them. So we'll be taking a peek at quite a couple of those, and of course Bakura's, some of Bakura's Spirit monsters as well also got printed, so we'll take a look at those as we go. So starting off here, we have Golden Allure Queen. This is a Link 3 Dark Spellcaster, 2500 attack. Its arrows point left, down, and right, so in that kind of downward arrow position here. Three different effects. The first effect reads, materials. This is actually pretty important. Materials are 3 spellcaster monsters. That's kind of a bummer here. Even if it was spellcasters, that's not necessarily the full problem. Part of the problem here is that it requires 3 spellcasters, and it doesn't say like 2+ monsters. 2+ spellcasters or 2+ monsters including a spellcaster. It does require a full spellcaster link, and it needs 3 different materials. I think that may be one of the biggest restrictions on this card, to be honest. First effect, if this card if this card, stop, leave me alone, sorry. Alright, if this card is link summoned, you can special summon 1 Allure Queen monster from your deck or graveyard, and if you do, this card gains 1500 attack until the end of this turn. This effect's not the worst. It does give you an extra material, but to be honest, all of the Allure Queen monsters that exist that are main deck monsters are absolute garbage. Like seriously, they're terrible. They have okay effects, to be fair, that say like that you can almost like relinquished, like target an opponent's monster and equip it to them. And that's the best thing they do, but that's a going second effect, and we would have to get 3 spellcasters on the field just to make this card going second, then resolve it to summon one of the Allure Queens, and then use one of the Allure Queens to suck one of their monsters up. It feels like you're asking for a lot to go right, and in which case there's probably more things you should be focusing on to help you even get to this position in the first place, and it adds another brick, but that's just the first effect, okay? Second effect, you can activate the effects that equip a monster to themselves of monsters with Allure Queen in their original names as quick effects. So I guess maybe that's part of it as well, where like even going first, you can summon an Allure Queen from deck, and if you do, it's kind of a quick effect to suck up one of your opponent's monsters, so that adds an interruption to your board. That's not the worst effect, but again, we're talking about adding a brick to any deck, and I don't know if we want that for our card that already requires like some sort of annoying materials. Third effect, once per turn, when your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect. This is when, so this is in response to the card your opponent activates. Destroy 1 card on the field, non-targeting. Also, Allure Queen monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects for the rest of this turn. That does help this card a little bit. Do I think this card is absolutely garbage? I don't. Do I think it's severely hindered by the fact that like just requiring you to play any main deck Allure Queen monsters is kind of annoying, and they're pretty bad bricks just in a vacuum? Yes, I would say so. But to be fair, this card is not bad. I mean, even going first. So going first, theoretically, you summon one of the Allure Queens, even if it's just Allure Queen level 3. She is now a quick effect. To quick effect, like attach one of your opponent's monsters to it as material, which is a pretty decent interruption. On top of the third effect here, which just gives you the ability to just pop a card when your opponent activates a card or effect, non-targeting. So this is like kind of like a Ghost Ogre, but better. That's not the worst. And even going second, being able to summon one of the Allure Queens, then suck up one of your opponent's cards, and then even if you don't want to like link them off, if you don't want to and you don't think you can kill, leave it on field. You got 2 interruptions from there. There's value here. The thing I come back to over and over again is these 2 things, right? 3 spellcasters. That is asking a lot. If this said, again, 2+ spellcasters, where maybe a Link 2 spellcaster could be caught in the middle and allow us to Link climb up into it, or maybe if it said 2+ monsters including a spellcaster, or maybe use some generic monsters as long as we had 1 spellcaster, that would have made this card significantly better. But all in all, I don't think it's the worst card in the world. I think there's applications going first. I think there's applications going second. I think there's some restrictions along the way, but I don't think it's absolutely garbage. It's definitely a card I would come back and look to, especially for a very heavy spellcaster type deck, especially if it's really good at spamming the board. That's where this card comes into play. If we get some spellcaster archetypes that are really, really good at just dropping a bunch of spellcasters on the board, that's where this card comes to shine. Next up here, we have Allure Palace. Sorry, field spell. You can only activate the 3rd effect once per turn. Spellcasters gain 500, 500. Sure, that's fine. Allure Queen effect monsters you control gain this effect. You can send this equipped card with a card, or cards. So this card equipped with a card or card. So it's the monsters on field. If they're equipped with something currently, by its own effect, you can send the equipped card to the graveyard to special summon 1 spellcaster with 1500 or less attack from your hand or deck. So there's some utility there, but again, it's kind of conditional. This is not a searching field spell. Okay. A 3rd effect, you can send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard to take an Allure Queen monster from your deck and either add it to your hand or special summon it to your opponent's field. Opponent's field? If this summoned to your own field, this actually would have been kind of nasty. Because like we've already determined here, the Allure Queens are kind of like Snatch Steals, or like mini, I guess I would call them like Thousand Eyes, or not Thousand Eyes. No, is it Thousand Eyes? Thousand Eyes Restrict? I can't remember which one's the older one. 100 Eyes Restrict, whatever. The one that just takes a monster and equips it to it, kind of like Relinquished Anima. The fact that it doesn't summon it to your own field is annoying. Summoning to your opponent's field, why would you want to do that? I guess. But there is still some value of adding 1 from your deck to your hand. Now, there's not a main deck one that like extends, and that's the problem here for me, I think, overall, where it's basically if you're adding 1, it's just going to be your normal summon. But it does go second. It does help break a board. It's not nothing for sure. It gives you the ability to also, like, to be fair, this card with any other card in hand says add an Allure Queen, normal summon the level 3 Allure Queen, suck up an opponent's monster going second, which is a decent going second effect. It does take your normal, but that as a going second effect is not the worst thing inherently. If you suck up an opponent's monster, you can then activate the 2nd effect saying send the monster you equip to the graveyard to then summon any spellcaster with 1500 or less attack from deck. And that's where you start opening up plays. You can get into Dogmatica stuff. There's even Jouging the Spiritualist. There's definitely a couple of different options there for sure. And then on top of that, all your monsters get a buff. The Allure Queens are kind of tiny in general anyway. So this is a not bad card. It's just one of those cards where I go, like, is there a world where we get an actual, like, better main deck Allure Queen that we want to be searching off of this to take our normal summon? But as of right now, it's just the basic level 3 one, I think. All right, the last card we have here is Allure Dance. This is a continuous spell card. You can only activate 1 card with this card's name per turn. You can only use the 3rd effect once per turn as well. When this card resolves, you can add an Allure Queen monster or Allure Palace from your deck to your hand. Again, some consistency here. These cards are not bad. I mean, that's solid. I mean, like, I get it. I've talked about how the Allure Queen cards are not quite amazing, and without getting new actual Allure Queen main deck monsters, these cards do look a little bit out of date, but it's not nothing. 2nd effect, each Allure Queen monster you control gains attack equal to the attack of the monsters equipped to it by its own effect. That's pretty good as well. I mean, summoning Allure Queen level 3, which is pretty small, equipping something your opponent controls and then gaining the attack of it, does allow you to push for a good amount of more of damage, or even be able to just clear over another monster, which is pretty nice. And the 3rd effect, you can send 1 other spell or trap you control. That's any other spell or trap, face up, face down, anything, to the graveyard to special summon as many Allure Queen monsters with different names as possible from your graveyard. This card is, I mean, this card is good. I think I think all 3 of these cards are actually pretty decent cards. The problem is, to facilitate them, you have to play Allure Queens. And the problem with Allure Queens is they're level monsters. They're not ideal. So you have like multiple Allure Queens in your main deck that are kind of either gunking up your main deck or just I guess that's the main thing, like just cards you don't even want to see that often. But these cards are good. That is super interesting to me that these cards are actually read really, really powerfully, but the main deck Allure Queens are just not that great altogether. All right, I mean, we're probably going to be put in a position here where we have to kind of work things out here. I mean, they would obviously have to work with something that already exists if they're not going to get more main deck utility for the monsters. But honestly, as far as building around a very limited cast of main deck monsters, I think these cards do a pretty powerful job of it. So I think that's where we're kind of left at the end of things here for that stuff. Sorry, we actually do have a couple more cards from Animation Chronicle. I actually forgot we saw these. These are Bakura's Spirit cards. The first one here is the Duke of Demise. This is a level 6 Dark Fiend. It's a fusion, 2,000 attack, 1,700 defense. It takes any 2 fiends and or zombies. That's actually huge. That actually makes Super Poly kind of like nasty versus Yubel, I believe. So Yubel utilizes Super Poly, but it actually does make Yubel a pretty punishable Super Poly target. Maybe they already were kind of targetable just because they play a lot of darks, and maybe just the generic darks could make it happen, but still. Once per turn, during your standby phase, pay 500 life points or destroy this card. Fine. You can only use the second and third effects once per turn. He cannot be destroyed by battle. During your main phase, you can activate this effect. Immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon 1 monster. That's interesting. And the third effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard to target a level 4 or higher fiend or zombie in grave and add it to your hand. Interesting. Okay. I mean, not a crazy card, but as far as like a fusion target goes, especially for something like Super Poly, that's like the main thing this card registers to me as. Being able to get him in grave, especially if you are on a fiend or zombie type deck, and being able to add one of those back to hand, or even in a scenario where your opponent only had 1 fiend or zombie and you had to summon 1 yourself and then Super Poly those 2 targets off, but then to just pretty easily just for free get that card back to hand is pretty nice. This is definitely a card to keep on watch for Super Poly targets for sure. Next, we have an equip spell. This is Spirit Illusion. It's an equip spell. You can only equip only to a level 5 or higher fiend or zombie. You can only use the first effect once per turn. During, you can activate one of these effects, Fusion summon 1 fusion monster from your action deck using monsters from your hand or on your field as material. Basic, just poly card. And the other one is special summon 1 doppelganger token. It's a level 5 question mark attack, 0 defense monster with the same type attribute and attack as the monster you equip this to. And when an attack is declared involving the equipped monster and an opponent's monster, you can take that opponent's monster, you can make that opponent's monster lose attack equal to the equipped monster's attack. Okay, this is like a sort of like weird poly card, but it's only a poly card for fiend and zombie decks basically, because you're going to put those on the field yourself, you're going to equip this to them, and you're going to use it to fuse. It only uses monsters from the hand and field, so it's a regular poly, which is just not good enough in modern day in my opinion. Or you just summon a token. To be fair here, there's no restriction on like what you're able to do with that token. So links are available, synchros are available. That stuff is free reign. But all in all, this card is pretty underwhelming, especially since it needs level 5 or higher. That's pretty icky, because it means you can't even like just equip to a normal summon fiend or zombie, which does kind of hurt. Last card we have here is Spirit Shield. Also, the last thing, I'm not even sure this card is searchable. It just is called Spirit Illusion, unless there is like something specific that like has some sort of problem-solving searchable text for, I don't know, a card that lists a doppelganger token or something like in its text, or illusion specifically. I don't know. I don't really see it here. This card's not doing it for me. The last card here is Spirit Shield. A continuous trap once per battle. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can banish the fiend or zombie from grave, negate the attack. Sure, that's fine. Once per turn, when your opponent activates a card or effect that would destroy a card or cards, you can banish a fiend or zombie from graveyard, negate the activation. And third effect, once per turn, during the end phase, if you do not control the fiend or zombie monster, send this card to the graveyard. This card, again, pretty bad, to be honest. Not super impressed with these cards. This guy's a super poly target. I'm not going to deny that. This card is definitely live as a potential super poly target for certain decks, especially if you're on a Fiend or Zombie deck yourself. There's extra bonus effects that you can take advantage of potentially. These cards are pretty washout cards for me. I don't really think these cards have much competitive value overall. You guys are gonna have to correct me on that if I end up being wrong. Please do if I am, but that's kind of where I land on this stuff. So there you go. That's what I have for today, guys. Actually, a good chunk of cards. I mean, 6 brand new cards from Animation Chronicle. I think that leaves with only like 15-ish cards left in the set to be revealed as far as like the brand new stuff goes. Hopefully there's some good stuff in there. Like I said before, Bonfire, Transaction Rollback, there is some good stuff in Animation Chronicle, usually year to year. I'm just not sure we've seen the cream of the crop just yet, but we'll keep our eyes peeled. I will bring you anything that I see that comes out of the woodwork that seems promising, and I'll just give you any news videos as they come. So subscribe to the channel for more stuff like that down the line. I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching as always. See you in the next one. Peace.